Hello, my name is Courtney Waller. This is one of my daughters, Emily, and this is my dog, Doug. He's our mascot here at Courtney Waller Productions, and we make videos. Daryl has asked me to introduce myself, so I thought I'd make a video to say hello. As that's what I do. I help companies communicate their messages through video. Now nowadays, anyone with a smartphone, laptop, computer can make a video. But I tell you what, I have pots and pans and a fridge full of food, but I ain't no chef. That's my joke. Hope you enjoyed it. But essentially, the key is to listening to your brief and then working out exactly what scripting, filming, animation, graphics, music, voiceover, interviews, design, and edit will best suit your video. So what you've got to remember is the audience is king, and knowing how to communicate correctly to that audience is where the skill lies. Isn't that right, Emily?
Yes.
That's right. So I'm a Perth boy, born and raised here in Perth, and now raising my kids here too with my beautiful wife, Tony, as it is the best city in the world to bring up a family. Now, Emily, sitting up, can you remember what Granddad did when he was started out?
Engineer.
He was an engineer by trade, that's right. And then in the 70s, he got into IT and was involved with big companies to set up their computer systems. And did that all the way until when he retired, only just, I think 4 or 5 years ago. Now, Mamas, what did Mamas do?
Mama's was
She was a nurse.
a nurse.
A nurse, that's right. And worked in the paediatric ward. Then when she had us kids, she became a full-time mum. But later on, once we all grew up, she became this entrepreneur and had many small businesses like selling Swipe, had a garden bag round, which I actually was a garden bag driver in my at uni. Did you know that? No, didn't know that. And then had a range of kids' clothing. She was a distributor for kids' clothing. But nowadays, she's become this female role model as she is the first woman to be on the main committee at Lake Karrinyup Country Club. Go Mum, we're all very proud of you. Yeah. So I got my determination from my dad. As a kid, Dad and I loved playing golf, and he would caddy for me. And when I used to have a bad hole or I did a bad shot, he'd say, just forget about it and move on. Focus on what you're doing now. And I've always remembered that. It's a great lesson to just forget about the past, as you can't fix the past. But what you can work on is what you're doing here right now, this moment. Now, entrepreneur side, that came from Mum, as she's the one always checking up on how the business is going, what I'm doing, how we're doing financially, have I got enough work on, and keeping a tab on all that. Whereas Dad doesn't worry about that anymore. I never really liked school until I went to university to study film and TV at Curtin. Then once I was doing something that I found really interesting, I pretty much lived there. I couldn't find out enough about how it all worked and what you could do with all the toys. It was just awesome. To answer the question, it has always been about finding out how to use the tools available to achieve what you want to do. My first job, or should I say my first paid job, was as a 12-year-old being given the opportunity to caddy at the 1986 WA Golf Open. As a budding young golfer and being able to caddy at what was to be known as the biggest and grandest WA Open in history, as it had the world #1 player Australia's Greg Norman playing. I was caddying for a young, unknown South Australian by the name of David Smith. I didn't think he would make the cut and get to be there on the weekend, but he did. And not only that, he was at the top of the field. So on the Saturday, we were in the same group as Greg Norman. Knowing that I was going to be walking around my golf course with this legend of golf was huge. I was too small and weak to carry the golf bag like most professional caddies. Instead, I pulled it along on a buggy. So I stood out a little bit. I even remember the commentators on the TV coverage wondering, why has this golfer got this young kid caddying for him? Is it his son or something? Anyway, that was my first job, and I made $100, which I was absolutely stoked with, as back in 1986, $100 was a lot of money for a 12-year-old kid. I began by working at Channel 9 Perth as a cable dragger on the outside broadcast. I love my credit on those programs. I was called the Cable Captain. Funny, as I hate cables, they are my curse. Then I worked on many TV adverts for many Perth production companies, in the art department, camera department and sound. I was the floor manager for ABC TV Perth and news and current affairs. Also out in the field gathering news reports. Then at the turn of the new millennium, I left the TV stations behind to make a feature-length movie and worked for myself, and I've been making films and videos ever since. I was asked this a while ago and was stumped for some time and couldn't come up with a good enough answer then, and still can't now. There was a short film I made in 2000 that I absolutely love. A tricky scope for a corporate that I pulled off and made very profitable in 2012. A low budget corporate that I made look like a big production number early this year that I'm proud of. But what I think is my biggest achievement is actually surviving. I've seen many people come and go in this business, as it's like none other, and I'm proud that I'm still here making videos. So to answer this question, I was inspired early on by directors like Mike Leigh, who would make films with real performances by real people, or Robert Altman for his use of technology to make great mise-en scenes like the opening shot in The Player, his use of radio microphones when it was a new technology in the movie MASH, or the look at the old school English class system in Gosford Park. Then there are people and characters from my top 5 favourite films that I'd like to talk about. At number 5, The Misfits, my favourite goddess Marilyn Monroe at her legendary best. Number 4, Double Indemnity. I only discovered this film once I was in my 30s and getting into film noir. I had to have a Billy Wilder movie in my top 5, and as I love his films and his creativity. At number 3, Toy Story. John Lasseter brought us a whole new technology and did so brilliantly with his Pixar team. Then at number 2, Breakfast at Tiffany's. Audrey, well, what more could you say? And teamed up with director Blake Edwards, who brought us other marvels such as The Party, simple 60s film magic. Then my number 1 favourite film of all time is Casablanca. It is a great film and by my opinion the greatest. But what I love the most about this film is how nobody wanted to be in it. Nobody thought it would be much. Well, they were doing it as a time filler, waiting to do their next job. But it somehow brought about this on-screen magic. And that says something about life and people. I've learnt lots of different things over 20 years of making videos. Lots of little tips and tricks I picked up along the way. But the biggest one has to be preparation. As this is not an industry you can turn up unprepared for. Unprepared means you miss vision or opportunities that you might not have a chance to capture again. So the thing I always tell myself when I'm going out on a new shoot is caught. If you're not prepared, then be prepared to fail. So like I said before, Courtney Waller Productions produces videos for companies to help communicate messages for internal or external audiences. Now this can be a promotional video to be used on a website or YouTube page, like the one I produced for Cottesloe Beach House stays, or an update video for a company to show how work is progressing on a large project, such as the videos I produced for Impex, showing the work on their $40 billion ICSIS project. I would answer this with my list of ultimate living dinner party guests. The Queen, and chat about the last 60 years. And maybe ask her what would she do differently. The Pope, and ask him why to so many questions. Mick Jagger, and say thank you for all the music. Until recently there was Steve Jobs. He has been the reason behind so many great things to have happened. But to me, art is so different now. It's not about oils on canvas or sculptures. But what I would like to replace him with is Perth artist Stormy Mills. I love seeing his work around the city. And finally, Mike Leigh, and ask him if we could make a film together. I like to know and learn about many areas and films, so there is no limit to where this could be. Mentors, partnerships or clients can come from a variety of areas, so the world is the limit. first started using LinkedIn, I was connecting with anyone that would come up as a connection. I was just clicking away, going click, 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 and I realized this is not the way to really meet people or network for myself. It's not doing me any good. All it's showing is I've got lots of connections. Now I make sure that with a new person that gets connected with myself, I send them a proper message and introduce myself, and then if I can, follow up with a coffee and tea afterwards and just have a chat, personally one-on-one, and get to know the person. Now, if you've enjoyed watching these videos, I'd love to hear your feedback. I've used a few different approaches in the style, the way I've gone about it from different scenes and backgrounds, but also just in my manner of talking and seeing which way people are finding a better approach or more interactive way of communicating. So I'd love to hear your feedback. So hopefully we can meet and chat and catch up soon. Bye for now.